Welcome to today's episode of Timeless Podcast, where we delve into the fascinating journey of transformation and innovation. Our guest, Alexey Tretyakov, has navigated a remarkable path from the strategic frameworks of McKinsey to the dynamic and ever-evolving world of startups, particularly within the software as a service sector. We will explore the motivations behind such a pivotal career shift, the invaluable skills transferred from consulting to startup life, and the unique challenges and triumphs encountered while launching an SaaS startup in new markets. Alongside, we'll gain insights into the broader landscape of career development in the fast-paced startup environment versus the traditional corporate roles. This conversation promises to uncover the nuanced levels of transitioning between vastly different professional worlds, setting light on the mindset, strategies, and resilience required to thrive in the startup ecosystem. Thank you for joining today, Alexei. To start, could you please introduce yourself? Feel free to share a bit about your background, what you're passionate about, and maybe any key experiences or insights that shaped your journey.
Alex, thank you so much for the intro, and it's a pleasure to be here on your podcast. And honestly, for me, it's one of the first experience in life where I share some sort of my background in the form of open dialogue, and practically anyone can see and delve into some stuff that I went through. But I'm quite open to share, and this is quite pleasant for me as well. And I do hope that it's gonna be valuable for anyone who decides to view it. So just a little bit about my background. Right now, I act as an independent consultant for different companies. And what I do is I help businesses, either small or big, in their journey to enter new markets and improving operational efficiency. So after my journey at McKinsey, I decided that this is going to be quite a reasonable way to continue my journey into the entrepreneurial field, I should say. As for my journey at McKinsey, I used to do transformational projects in fintech, in finance in general, and also in digital transformation for telecoms. Prior to that, I used to work in fintech, and I launched my own startup, or I should rather say, a service company where we developed AI and machine learning services as a contractor for bigger companies. And at the same time, I had a life hobby, I should say, which was creating TEDx conferences and experiences for a broader audience, with the goal of helping notable ideas to be more widespread across the world. Yeah, I've spent about 5 years doing that. And at the same time, I finished my studies and I started my journey in fintech and then business and then consulting. And right now, yes, I'm back to business, I should say. And right now I'm in the position of a startup person and an independent consultant as well. Yeah, and that's about my background.
Wonderful. Of course, thank you. It's very interesting as well that you said you participated and advocated at TED Talks. So having a philanthropic edge, I would say, in sharing the knowledge to others is a very, very useful characteristic and very interesting. So thank you for that. Could you possibly share a bit more about your journey from working at McKinsey to actually venturing into the startup landscape?
Sure. So I would say that there are a few principles that different people have in mind when deciding to go from startup to corporation or from a corporation to a startup. And there are two main ones. The first one is risk appetite, and the second one is ownership appetite. So as I ventured throughout my path, there were different stages of what I considered to be the best decision to be made. And I should say that you can always create your own projects, and you don't need any special cue from the universe to do that. You just go out and perform what you want to perform. But as for corporations, there needs to be some solid preparation before you enter this sort of world. And as McKinsey is quite notable in having quite a long journey in people preparing for case interviews, and the whole process can take up to 9 months, as it did with me. Well, I should say that in different stages in life, you can do different things, and both ways are okay, and both ways are valuable.
Of course. Thank you. Maybe was there like a particular event or maybe a realization where you decided to make this leap from consulting to startups?
I should say that there was probably no such specific event where I felt this urge to exit, because McKinsey is an amazing place to be, in terms of the people you meet, in terms of the impact you make with the clients together, in terms of different geographies that you can visit, in terms of the variety of projects that you can embark on. But probably from the very start of my consulting career, I knew that I want to go back to entrepreneurship. And I viewed my experience at McKinsey as a learning point for myself and my skills, as I felt like the consulting toolkit can be quite valuable in building startups as well. So maybe in the last few months, I realized that well, the world is experiencing some sort of transformation as well, just like a McKinsey client. But the process is way more complex than the ones that are happening in companies. So I just thought that, as one of the movie characters pointed out, chaos is a ladder, and I decided to delve into a more chaotic lifestyle. And yeah, in general, I think that the economic recession and downturn is a great time to start building something of your own, especially if you can be quite standalone, and if you know how not to burn too many resources. And yeah, when you're bootstrapped, when you have some sort of pile of cash under your pillow that you can run on for some time, I think building companies is the best experience and journey that you can possibly have.
Oh, of course. Well, as for a lot of people knowing us now, starting their entrepreneurial life, that particularly building a process and the product is extremely difficult, but thank you for the insights. Maybe can you give like specific skills or insights at your time at McKinsey, which, you know, have been particularly beneficial in your startup environment?
Yeah, the skills there from consulting that can be beneficial in the startup environment. Yeah. So first of all, let's speak about the startup environment and what it is, especially for the early stage startups. So when you do something from the ground up, you have so many different ways that you can do it, and you have a huge variety of different markets that you can enter. And well, there are just so many ideas floating around. So I would say that the first skill that you have to master in order to even start on this journey is prioritization. It's when out of all this white noise, you can distill the signals um, that you're going to use in building your own business. And if we translate it into the more actionable business language, you have to decide what to focus on, like the 80-20 rule. So the 20% of what you do is going to bring you 80% of the results. And you have to quickly prioritize how you test the hypothesis. You have to quickly prioritize what are the focal points of your business, and what your strengths are, and how you're going to leverage them. The second skill that could be valuable for the people starting their own businesses out of consulting is working as a standalone consultant. Because quite often on different projects at McKinsey, especially at the associate level, you have to lead your own streams. So after the whole project is structured into different streams, an associate has to lead their own stream. And you not only have to structure your own stream, you have to execute on it, and you have to apply critical thinking to it. And you don't take anything as a face value, and you test the hypothesis, you test the logic behind some things that are happening. You test the client as well. And even though you do have like a manager who might oversee your work in some sort of way, there are so many decisions that you have to make yourself. And especially if you want to be a good consultant, the majority of your decisions have to be smart. Yeah. And as you embark on the startup journey, there is no manager anymore. They could be like an investor. There could be like a client, in my case. But overall, I'd say that 95% of decisions you have to make for yourself. And the third one is, I'd say, stress management, even though it might seem quite obvious. But in consulting, you often have to do long hours, like maybe 12 to 14 to maybe 16 hours a day in the most difficult cases. And you have to learn to navigate yourself into it. You have to learn how to recover. You have to learn how to keep yourself internally valuable, even though there are some adversities happening, and there is a lot of turmoil that you have to go through. Yes, so you have to have good rest, and you have to know yourself how to recharge and what makes you recharge. So, for example, there are a few pillars like sleep, like proper food, nutrition, like exercise. But there are things above that, physical level. To keep yourself in a high mental state, you have to remember the reasons you're doing all this for. You have to keep yourself motivated through higher things, and there has to be some joy in life as well. And consultants have different ways to achieve that, starting from fancy hotels and business class tickets. But for me, what's even more valuable is seeing the beauty around yourself every day. That might be through like nature and art and architecture and music. Yeah, well, it's different for every person, I'd say. So top 3 skills that are valuable from the consulting world into startups. I'd say the first one was prioritization. Second one was working as a standalone consultant, and the third one is just managing stress.
Of course, finding a key balance not to burn yourself out. That's the last
Exactly.
point. Key. Of course, very well said. So moving a bit further, I would ask you about the SaaS startup which you launched. So as the country launcher in an SaaS startup, what were the key responsibilities and challenges you encountered in establishing a presence in a completely new market?
Yeah, a couple of words about the background of this software as a service startup. So I was hired as an independent go-to-market consultant, or like a chief operations officer for the new country. And this startup was quite successful in its initial go-to-market, which was the CIS. And basically, I was hired to do the go-to-market to Europe, starting from Cyprus. Well, as a person who is responsible for launching an entirely new business in a new country, I'd say that the main responsibility was finding product market fit, and that could be structured into, first of all, finding first clients, and second, conducting the on-field research about how the market responds to the product, and what would be the industries that we should prioritize. Yeah.
Of course, very well said. Maybe can you give like a lesson, let's say the most significant lesson you learned from your SES startup experience that you believe is incredibly crucial for aspiring tech entrepreneurs to understand in this field?
Oh, any one particular lesson?
Well, we can move it to
So,
maybe 3 lessons, just the most important ones.
yeah, maybe I will define a few challenges that I went through, and then
Of course.
it will kind of evolve into like
Yeah, very rational.
the lessons
Of
bit.
course.
As of my experience, I would say that the most crucial challenge when entering a new market where you have not so much proficiency in is getting to know the market, getting to know the industries, and getting to know the major players in the industries, and meeting the people, the right people, I should say. Like meeting the clients and speaking to them face to face is crucial, but sometimes it's not easy to get the foot in the door. Because after you kind of got the overall understanding of the market, you have to grasp the mentality of the client. You have to understand what the principles of them are, and what guides them, and how they make decisions. And the third part is establishing the first client base. And from there, it's far easier to move on, I'd say. So speaking of the lessons learned from this experience, I'd say that as a newly established startup, where you don't exactly have the product market fit and you have to find it, and there are so many different ways in which you can perform things. You have to try them all, and you have to kind of fail fast and find the things that work for you. So don't linger too much on any one specific way to do things. You might try different ones and see which ones are going to work. Yeah. Second one would be do not be afraid to go to the bigger clients and to the more senior clients, and to more established clients, because we're all people, and there are people on the other side. And I think when you're trying to build a sort of business partnership, it is very important to see people as people, but not as their hierarchical roles, or like their numbers of revenue, for example. Yeah, and I'd say the third lesson from any launch of startup is that any experience is valuable as long as you kind of live through it and as long as you learn your lessons. So I think it's not a secret that like maybe 1 in 20 startups actually succeeds, and that probably means that you have to make a lot of attempts, to make something happen. And if you do like 3 attempts of creating a startup, your math percentage of success is going to be lower than if you do 10 attempts. And if you do 20 attempts, you learn different things throughout every journey, and these things can be valuable in the next experiences. Yeah, that would be the 3 lessons.
So pretty much the last point as well, for aspiring entrepreneurs, should not see failure of their initial startups as a complete negative, but as a gained experience, and to not stop. I'll say
Yeah,
very valuable
yeah,
point.
definitely. And I think the same thing applies to your podcast. So it is a very nice experience to create something from the ground up, as you did here. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here as one of the first guests. And even if it fails at some point, or even if you lose interest, I think there are so many things that you can learn through it.
Of course, that's a very well said analogy. Even if I feel this would be an incredibly valuable experience for myself personally, and hopefully for you as well. Uh, Obviously, for me, gaining lessons and experience from you. Uh, so maybe still staying on the SAS startup, maybe you can potentially discuss like a particular challenge which you faced when like establishing a presence in the new market, and obviously the strategy you used to overcome it. Because I understand obviously being a country launcher in the SIS region was, very, very responsible and hard. So maybe like a
Um,
strong challenge which you faced, and obviously the strategy how you overcame it.
sure. So I would say that one of the strongest challenges was to kind of understand what would be the client profile here in the new market. Because back in CIS, we established a very nice presence across the retail sector, and we worked with international chains of like supermarkets and other retail stores. But in the current market in Cyprus, there are not that many retail stores across town. So after we tried going into this sector and we didn't succeed, we decided to switch to the hotel industry, for example, because the hospitality industry in Cyprus is huge and it's growing. And even though it has some seasonality, um, it is experiencing a very high inflow of customers and finance in the hottest seasons. So I'd say the challenge was to reestablish the focus of business and find the right industry to focus on for the project.
Of course. So, for example, taking Cyprus, as I understand correctly, tourism has been the biggest revenue streamer for the Cypriot economy for quite a while. So, did you see any changes, obviously, with COVID happening and the decreased tourism of right now, poorly world economy of people not having that much income to come to Cyprus? Has it had an impact on your startup, for example?
Yeah, maybe to answer this question, I need to provide some background about the startup first.
Of course.
So just in a few words, it was a startup called Juggle, and um, its key value proposition was to help businesses kind of leverage their process control through virtual checklists and through streamlined operations control via mobile application and web interface. So, for example, if there is a retail store, there are so many different processes that are thoroughly repeated every day inside the store. For example, there is the merchandising part, where you have to kind of place the right products at the right shelves, for example. Then there is the security part, where there have to be like security people in the right places, maybe cameras, etc. Then there are labor safety regulations and measures that also have to be controlled. So this app was designed to establish thorough repeated control over these things throughout checklists. So when the frontline employees were executing some of their processes, they could take notes and pictures about the processes, and it's all kind of beautifully added up into a database with nice visualizations about where the violations happen and which objects are the most prone to these kind of violations. So speaking of COVID and the tourist sector in Cyprus, I can't really tell, to be honest, whether it has impacted the economy of Cyprus in a way that could impact the startup. But the one thing that we are really looking into is the number of employees in the sector. And as there were less customers, well, the fewer the customers, the fewer the employees are needed, because the fewer hotels are in the operation. Yes, so on the one hand, we do help, for example, the hotels to thrive in terms of operations and provide better services. On the other hand, we highly depend on the number of these hotels, for example, or retail stores, or some other types of clients that we can implement the product into. I can go deeper into that, so you have to stop me at some point.
Of course, no, I think already now you give like a very good insight, very valuable insight as well. So just I would say let's go further into a question I'll probably say which matters for me the most is your career development. So for people like myself included, considering a transition from the traditional corporate roles, okay, consulting, to startups, what advice would you give them based on your own journey?
What advice would I give to the young professionals? Well, this is a tricky question because I often consider myself as a young professional as well. Because the learning path doesn't actually end until you die. So yeah, I'd say there are a few things that mattered for me in this journey, and that some of your listeners might find valuable as well. So I'd say that you have to really find your strength and see what you actually love to do and where your interest lies in. And so there are more technical people, there are more business-oriented people. This is normal. And if you're a business person, you don't actually have to force yourself into writing code, for example, because you might it is easier to find a CTO, a co-founder, which would alleviate a lot of headaches that you might experience if you tried to venture into it yourself. Second one would be using your network, I'd say, because you have to be resourceful in order to make something happen, and in order to understand where your path is going to be, you have to not only listen to yourself, but also get a broader view about what is happening around you. So I'd say go to older mentors, go to people who succeeded in whatever field you want to succeed in. Just randomly get to know people and try to understand their point of view and what their vision is. And yeah, the third one would be just give yourself some time, really. So sometimes people need more time, to uncover what's beneath the surface. Well, there are exceptional individuals who actually do know what they want to do at the very start, and I'm quite jealous of them, to be honest. So I've met a few guys who are natural born consultants, and this is just a marvel. This is such a joyous thing just to talk to them and to work with them, because you actually see them thrive in what they do. But there are other people who have their own doubts, I would say, or their own journey where they have to try different things to discover what they want to do and where their talent is. So yeah, the third one would be don't be too hard on yourself and just keep on exploring.
Of course. And as you said, don't force yourself to do something you don't enjoy as much. Thank you. Maybe, so what do you think one's career development path might differ in the startup world compared to one who established a career in the corporate setting?
These are two different worlds, absolutely, but both of them exist, and both of them actually create value to the society and to business overall. So as I think I mentioned in the very start of our conversation, well, one path requires a higher risk appetite for yourself, and a higher ownership appetite is where you desire to have some freedom in the first place. You can take on your own risks, and at the same time you want to own something like a part or the whole enterprise. So going into consulting, for example, McKinsey is a very safe thing to do. Even though you do have to work hard, you have to work long hours for an extended period of time before you make it to manager or a partner or a senior partner. But this is a very safe option, to get rich slowly, I should say. So if you do have the strengths and the grit to become a partner at one of these companies, well, you can make a very good money in general terms. But you have to be aware of the fact that this can probably diminish as soon as you go out from consulting. So you don't actually own a thing when you work for a consulting company. Of course, there are some internal procedures like purchasing equity. As long as you are a partner, you have to have some sort of equity in the company. And I think in different consulting companies, there are different ways to handle it. So there are non-equity partners and equity partners at BCG and at McKinsey. There is just a shared pool of equity that is splitting the profits. But once you quit, and you don't have anything for yourself. Apart from the money that you've managed to save, and if you're responsible with that, and it can be enough, for the rest of your life after some period of time. But in the world of building companies and startups, there is a possibility for you to exit the business and make a huge sum of money, or to appoint a CEO or a manager to run the business while remaining the owner. And the second path, of course, requires a very solid risk appetite, as it is highly less probable, I would say, to make a huge success rather than sticking to your career and making it to a manager or a partner and then exiting to a client, for example, and having a career. Yeah, but different people need different things, and it's very good to know which ones you are looking for. So my dream vision is that at 35 or 40, I will not need to work. And of course, I would like to have the possibility to retire at any time I wished. But of course, there are things in life that keep me entertained and keep me interested. And of course, I think I would still keep on working at creating some new forms of companies, even after I have fulfilled my material wishes, I should say.
Sounds like a very good and rational plan. Maybe overall, looking at your journey, what would you give a one piece of wisdom, I would say, what you've learned yourself, which is not immediate to others who are considering this similar transition from corporate roles to startups like you have?
Yeah, so it's different for different people. So as I know for myself that I'm quite competitive, and I'm quite intense at my core, and I don't really quit too easy. Mm, I'd say that yeah, being successful and being happy is different, and you have to manage both if you want to live a good life. That would be one main piece of advice. And maybe second one is learning to kind of learn new things and unlearn the old ones is also valuable. And yeah, do not be afraid to let go of the old things in your closet, because after you recycle, you're gonna have a new blank space to fill in, and something is gonna come there.
Of course. Well, that's your wisdom, which we'll take for granted. Thank you very much. Well, I
Please
would say
don't.
as we why not then?
Well, don't take anything at face value, and
Okay.
have your own criticism and question it.
Of course. Well, we would say not take it for granted, but take your own wisdom and learning experiences and have a rational opinion. Well, thank you for that. As I would say, we draw this conversation to a close. I'd like to have a moment to thank you, Alexei, for sharing the deepful and insightful journey from a prestigious role at McKinsey to embracing the vibrant and unpredictable world of startups within the SES domain. The experiences you've shared today, well, thank you very much for them. It's an initial leap out of the consulting sphere, which a lot of us new, younger, upcoming professionals want to go to, and then navigating the complexities of launching and scaling startups into new markets offers a very rich narrative with your challenges, your personal learning curves, and well, growth. Your transition from consulting to startups is a testament of the versatility and adaptability which is required in today's business environment overall. It highlights the intersection between the consulting frameworks, and the agile and innovative mindset which you need in startups. I would say today your stories of overcoming obstacles when launching the SSA domain in CIS region, working in Cyprus, and the leveraging unique skill sets which you've gained throughout the years give a very good strategic foresight for us and for the people wanting to go into consulting and then possibly entrepreneurship. As we conclude, I would extend my deepest appreciation for your openness and the wealth of knowledge which you've contributed to the podcast, to myself. Thank you very much for this. Your journey is a very good illustration of how different experiences can converge into a successful path in the ever-evolving tech industry. Thank you for sharing your story, and I wish you continued success as you navigate the future of your newly or older entrepreneurial endeavors.
Yeah, Alex, thank you for inviting me. And I should definitely mention that the path is not finished yet. And who knows, maybe I'm going to go back to consulting after a few years of business. But I'd say this is like a learning spiral. So you have to work hard to unlock new levels.
Of course.
So happy to have contributed to the podcast, and it was a great experience for me as well. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much. Well, take care. Have a good rest of the day, and goodbye.
Yeah, thank you. Goodbye.